Do not scratch your eyes. You are really seeing the most extraordinary finish here.
What's going on, everybody? Jake Wilson here. We got a new show for you today. We're going to call it A Pitch to Pod, a soccer podcast. And I've been trying to do this for a long time. Finally, I got someone who can do it with me. So without further ado, the star midfielder for UNC Asheville, Sam Eckersall. Sam, how you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about soccer or football for you.
Yeah, football for me.
So without further ado, we have a good show today. We're going to talk about a couple things Premier League wise. Later in the year, we'll probably talk about stuff that, includes international play and all that. Maybe talk about Messi as well. Yeah. But, Premier League's been kicking off and it's been pretty exciting these past couple weeks. But when you look at Premier League, you have a couple takeaways. I have a couple takeaways. The first thing I want to talk about is Newcastle. So as you look at the table, Newcastle is sitting at 13th right now, which a team that finished, I think, top 5 last year. That's pretty surprising.
Fourth. They got Champions League. It's good to see them back up there because they are a massive club, massive stadium, massive fan base. So it's nice to see them back up there.
You talk about the stadium and the crowd, like every time they score a goal, man, holy moly. Yeah. I mean, they get into it, and I love it. And that's what you like about the Premier League is the fans and just, the team culture that everybody has. But when you talk about Newcastle, this is a team that's 1-2 right now. Yeah, that looks bad on paper. But when you take into who they played, you're talking about teams like Man City and Liverpool where they only lose by 1 goal. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. And then they beat Villa week 1, 5-1.
Villa are another side that have kind of come up in the last 2 or 3 years and started getting a bit of success. They were really close to European football last year. They're obviously still building on that, but I mean, they just beat Burnley 3-1. So beating Villa is a tough result. I think it's nothing to worry about for Newcastle. The fact that they've actually got a win on the board out of the 3 is good, but I'm pretty sure that their fixtures, I looked at them, October and September are all fairly easy, bottom half of the table teams. So that's when you really look at it. If they don't win games through there, then you start to worry. They've been playing well. They've been playing good football, and they look like they're still at the standard that they were at last year. So if I was a Newcastle fan, I would not be worried specifically. So
you look at their upcoming matches. I mean, you're talking about you play at Brighton, who Brighton's always going to be a good team. You go play at the Amex, but then you go back home against Brentford. You play against Sheffield United, and then versus Burnley. So those 4 upcoming matches, I mean, they could come out of those 4 with 4 wins, or they could go 3-1.
Yeah, 100%. Especially because Brighton have just come off a kind of a shocking loss, really. I mean, West Ham have pulled out some good results, even though they've been poor in previous years. But beating Brighton 3-1 was kind of a shock. I think Brighton weren't expecting that. I don't think anyone was expecting that. So it could go one or two ways. They could kind of fall into a slump, or they could come out completely firing. But it's going to be a good game because I think Newcastle and Brighton are very evenly matched teams. I do think Newcastle have a little bit more quality in their side, so you would expect them to win, but maybe away from home it'll be a bit tighter than you'd think. But yeah, from those 4 games, Newcastle, especially if they want to keep progressing, they should expect to win those 4 games.
So you mentioned them playing in the Championship League this season. How do you think that's going to affect them in the Premier League?
I think it will affect them quite a lot. I think people know that. I think this is where depth in the squad comes in. You need to have almost another 11 that's going to be just as good to compete with the starting squad, so that you can have that rotation. Because playing Saturday, Wednesday, or Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, Tuesday, it's a lot more on the team. So they'll probably pick up a few bigger injuries. They'll have to sit some players now and then, or maybe if they don't and they do try and keep the starting 11 out all the time, their quality might drop because their fitness might not be there. They might be struggling. It's also another opportunity to lose games and kind of dip in form, but at the same time, it's also another opportunity to keep the form and go and win another trophy or something like that. So it could work both ways, really, but it will definitely be a challenge for them, especially considering they've not been in that competition for a very, very long time.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Mm-hmm. Let's go to my home team over here with Everton. Nice. They look like they are allergic to scoring. I mean, actually, 0 goals in 3 games is absurd, and they're sitting at bottom of the table. Calvert-Lewin can't play. He's hurt all the time. Yeah. You put Neil Maupay out there, that dude can't score. He might be one of the worst players I've seen play this. And then you signed Danjuma, but Danjuma still hasn't broken out yet. But the
Yeah.
biggest news that came out this week and actually came out this morning is Everton signing Beto.
Mm.
And I got to be honest, I'm new to soccer, so I don't know
Mhm.
who Beto is. I know he's from Portugal, but how do you think that signing will help Sean Dyche and the Toffees play?
I mean, just having another striker in there is going to help them, even if he's not particularly world class or whatever. So I think having another option is good, and I think he's a different type of player to the others. Obviously, Calvert Lewin, when he's playing, can be that guy for you, but obviously the last 3-4 years, he's just not even really seen the field more than 3-4 games in a row. So I mean, the price tag was about £25 million, about $30 million. So I mean, he wasn't cheap, but wasn't expensive. I mean, if he puts the ball in the back of the net, and that's all you need really. But I think Everton, they are a good team, but obviously the striker position is always something that, especially since Lukaku left years ago, you've never really been able to replace. But it'll be interesting to see, because I haven't necessarily heard of him either, but he's not exactly a no-name. He's been playing in the Serie A, and he's put in 10 or 12 goals the last couple of seasons. So he's solid. If you can get 10 goals out of him, that'll really boost you, and hopefully you're not as close to the relegation battle as you were last year.
You look at their forwards, they do have a couple that aren't fit. McNeil hasn't played this season. I think he got injured in a couple friendly matches that they played at the beginning of the season. And then obviously Damari Gray hasn't been fit as well. So that's
Yeah.
two forwards that you're missing who were key pieces of the team last year, especially McNeil, who led the team in scoring.
Yeah.
So do you think Everton has a possibility of being relegated? I know a lot of people are talking about that right now, but do you think that is an actual possibility?
Yeah, the thing is, I think there's a lot of teams down there this year that are really going to struggle. So it's just beating those teams. You can just focus on beating those teams that are in the relegation battle as well. Then I think it will be fine. I think the fans at Everton and the size of the club helps a lot as well. Like home games, it's tough to go to Everton and get a result, especially with a manager like Sean Dyche, who is used to being in that relegation battle and getting a team to survive. I think you will be fine, but yeah, it's a tough one because other than this new signing, you haven't really brought anyone else in. You have the quality to be a Premier League team, so it would be a shame to see you go down, especially because Everton are one of the longest lasting Premier League teams going. I think they're one of the only ones that haven't gone down. But yeah, Everton are a big club, and I think they'll survive again.
Sam, dude, you're a natural at this, bro. You ever thought about being a pundit?
I mean, yeah, anything other than football, I'd probably struggle. But just speaking about football I don't know, I just love it.
So we've made it through the first few weeks of the Premier League season. Which team has been the most surprising to you?
Most surprising, I would say, I mentioned them earlier. I'd say West Ham. They were a good team pre-COVID. Afterwards, kind of slipped down a bit, especially after losing a massive player like Declan Rice. You would expect them to be struggling more than usual and really be down there. But to obviously beat someone like Brighton 3-1, I'm pretty sure they're sitting second or third right now in the table.
Mm.
Yeah, second. They're sat up there with 2 wins and a draw. So to go and beat them from the first 3 games, especially playing a team like Brighton, is quite surprising. So it's good to see West Ham back up there because they, again, were in European football. That's been quite surprising, especially because they have lost some firepower and they haven't really replaced it.
You said it. They got two victories, both 3-1, one against Chelsea, which a lot of people thought Chelsea were going to win that game. And then Brighton's huge.
Yeah.
Brighton is a top 5 team, in my opinion, in the league. And to beat them, I think it's great. I don't know if you've seen Ted Lasso, but it's like Nathan Shelley's coaching that team right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's actually absurd. So, uh, I mean, looking at them now, you got people talking about, oh, they won't finish top 10. Oh, they won't finish in the top 5. But do you think this team could finish in the top 5?
The thing is with the season is it's a marathon, not a sprint. So like we said earlier with Newcastle, it's nothing to worry about being 1 and 2. It's interesting for sure to see that they can go and get these results against big teams. I think they'll be up there in the top 10 again this year. I think, but I don't know if they're going to have quite the firepower to go the whole season and actually keep turning these big teams over. I think eventually they will get found out. I don't know. Yeah, I think they'll be up in the top 10 again, but I don't think they can hold this sort of form. That especially the whole duration of the season, they'll pick up injuries and everything like that. They will drop down a bit. Yeah.
So we've talked about the most surprising team, and I was going to say West Ham was
Yeah.
my most surprising team as well. But who has been the most disappointing team this season?
I'd say Chelsea. I think the fact that they've got Pochettino in, they've got a new manager, they've spent all this money again, and they started off well against Liverpool. I liked the way they played when they drew 1-1 against a tough Liverpool side. To then go and obviously lose to West Ham, and then to be down there again, I think. I mean, they're such a big club. They should be pushing for the title every year, especially with the money that they've spent. I'm pretty sure they've almost spent £1 billion in the last 2-3 years. So again, yeah, they've been underwhelming. You can say Newcastle, but obviously the fixtures have been tough on them. So again, wouldn't be so harsh. But yeah, definitely Chelsea. I'd expect them to be up there, even though they haven't been amazing the last few years. I really was expecting them to kick on under Pochettino, and especially all these new players that they brought in. They've got a lot of quality and they've got a lot of depth, which I've mentioned a lot.
So obviously you are a Man City fan,
Yeah.
but excluding Man City, when you're looking at all these teams, is there a team or a couple teams that could potentially win the Premier League, not including Man City?
I think Arsenal are going to be up there again. I think they've made some really good signings. I mean, I'd like to see them up there again. They really pushed City last year to kind of keep their foot on the gas and not be so complacent after winning all the trophies the last couple of years. So I think Arsenal will definitely be up there again. I'm not too sure about Liverpool. I think they'll be fighting for top four. So they'll be in there. I think the main one is definitely Arsenal again. I think they bought a load of good players and really strengthened their team. So hopefully they can hold off injuries and keep everyone fit. And I really think they will give City a run for their money this year.
You're looking at those two we already talked about. Like, yeah, they should be up there. Arsenal should be up there. Liverpool should be up there. Man U should be up there. Are there any wild cards? Because I wrote down Brighton, if they continue to play like they have.
Honestly, if I wasn't a City fan, my second team would be Brighton. I really think I have a soft spot for them. They play nice football, and I think they are one of the teams that play close to City's level. And considering they don't really have the massive budget to go and buy these crazy players and have some firepower.
And there has been some talks about Matoma potentially going to Man City. How do you think that would affect Man City?
I mean, I think that would be really good. I'm not necessarily a fan of Grealish, so I would love him out there on the left. I think he's. We just bought Jeremy Doku, so it looks like Pep's gonna kind of change around how we play in the wide areas. Maybe have a few more dribblers and a bit more pace to it, like we used to with Sane and Sterling. In recent years, we've kind of been more technical and bring the wingers inside, get them playing with Grealish and Mahrez and Foden. Obviously, Mahrez is gone now, and Foden played through the middle the other day, so maybe he's looking to change up how we play out wide. People obviously are starting to catch on. They're doing everything to stop City. So I would love Matoma. I really like him. I genuinely think he's one of the best dribblers of the ball in the world. The way he keeps the ball close to him, and he doesn't even do anything flashy, any skills or anything like that, but he just glides on the pitch. So it would be nice to have him for sure. He creates a lot of opportunities for Brighton.
So we talk about the teams that could potentially win the Premier League. Let's go to the opposite. Obviously, we need to talk about some relegation here.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, who is in your relegation watch right now?
I feel bad. I feel it's a bit of pity for them, but it's Luton. I think Luton are going to be near the bottom. I think everyone would say the same thing. Luton will definitely be down there. They just haven't got the budget, not the players. It was a surprise they even came up in the first place. I think Sheffield United will be there again. They've only just come up, and I don't think they really brought in enough quality to survive. Unfortunately, I think Everton will be in and around there. I do think they'll survive, but I think they'll be in and around there. And I'm going to say Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth, they didn't bring in anyone. They didn't really improve. They were lucky last year again. So I think my three would be Luton, Sheffield, and Bournemouth.
Right now, I'm looking at Luton as well.
Yeah.
I think Everton could be down there again. You got to find someone who can score.
Yeah.
They haven't scored a goal this season. And then another team, a little bit of a wild card. What about Fulham? Mitrovic just left. That's big.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. I didn't actually think about Fulham. I completely forgot about Mitrovic leaving. But I think they've got a good back line, and obviously they can scrape results like 2-2 against Arsenal. So I'm not sure, but yeah, I agree with you. I think over the course of the season, lacking the goals, they'll be down there. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Fulham is a team who I'm always going to have a soft spot for just because they have Anthony Robinson, the guy Tim Ream, and another guy that I really like just because he has the last name as me, Harry Wilson. But yeah, you look at Fulham, again, the loss against Brentford, I think it was 3-0. That was pretty poor. But you just mentioned it. The draw against Arsenal is very big, and they're sitting at mid-table, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are the three in my relegation watch. But Sam, I appreciate you so much, man. That was such a great episode. Hopefully we can have you back on.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe get some picks and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
man, I appreciate you. And for everyone who liked the video, again, if you have any disagreements with the comments we've made, leave a comment down in the comment section as well. Give us a like and subscribe. And I will see you next week.